So, hello and welcome to this session. My name is Jan Metzner. I'm a solutions architect based in Munich from AWS. I have a little bit background in mobile, and we are helping customers architecting and developing applications on AWS. Together with me on stage, we have later on Vinny from EasyTaxi and Suresh from HTC. So, let's look about what you will get out of this session. First of all, you should be able to easier architect mobile applications. You should be able to add features to your applications without complicating your architecture. And you, of course, should be able to improve your scale and your global reach. Let's first step back a little bit and let's check out what influences a mobile application. It's a fast-moving market. You all know this. So this means that you need to be agile. You need to be also backward compatible because, well, if you're introducing always new features, your old phones, your old applications need to still work. Then if you're adding features, you need to check if this is the right direction. You need to check, hey, am I going in the right direction or not? And then, of course, you need to differentiate. There are a lot of apps out there. You need to innovate to become different. Yeah? So for that, you need to know what your customers are doing. Yeah? So you need to have insight on your customers. What are the customers doing inside your application? And then, perhaps you need to push your application open. If it is only open once a month for some customers, you need to be able to push it open a little bit more. So have a conversation, hey, a friend chatted, hey, here, just pop up the application. So you need to be able to reach the customer, even if the application is not open. And then, of course, it's a consumer market. So, hey, it must be scalable. And since you could release this to all the app stores, you instantly could get a global reach, and then you will end up with operating. So you need to operate 24/7, which is not that easy. So you need to think about this in your architecture. So you need to have easy to operate architecture as well. So how do a lot of customers using AWS? They have a lot of self-written code that is deployed on Amazon EC2 together with auto-scaling and, of course, elastic load balancing to distribute the traffic. And, of course, this is deployed in one of the regions. And if you go global, you might deploy this in more than one region. So you have deployed this in 2 regions. And, well, the devices need to know how to reach the nearest region. For that, you would use Amazon Route 53 together with latency-based routing to select the nearest region. And you can improve the speed with Amazon CloudFront for static and also for the dynamic content. So for the data APIs, you can also put CloudFront in front to improve the speed and the latency. So let's look on the functional breakdown of an application itself. You most of the time have something like authentication and authorization, be it an authentication provider like Facebook, Google, or whatever. Sometimes you also want to have unauthenticated user support, meaning you want to authorize your APIs, but you don't need to authenticate the users themselves. So let's look on the data API. You need to authorize the calls. You normally have some user profiles that need to be synced. You have shared data which need to be written and read out. You should, or if not, you should think about implementing asynchronous communication, because then you can just send out something, and in the backend it can be computed, everything what is going on. Then most of the times, especially in the mobile space, you need a text search and especially location search. You need to know which restaurants are around your current location and so on. Then, well, you take a picture or you want to upload a video, you need to have a functionality to upload user-generated data. And then, really important, because you need to know what is going on the device, you need to upload analytics data. And there are some use cases where you want to process real-time data. And for that, you might have the need to have a special data API as well. Then you need to analyze your users. You need to know what's going on. How many users do I have today? How many users did I have last month, or so on. And you need to make marketing campaigns. So you need to analyze what's going on. Which users do I reach, which not? Where do I have to do something? And, well, this can be a little bit different, but it should be very important for you. Then, as I said, well, you need to open the app. So you need a functionality to push notifications to the phone itself, which means you have to implement to all the push providers, so Apple, Google, or the Fire devices, and so on. And since you have to implement this a lot of times, you might to have a shared services to get this as a service for all your services in your application itself. So if you look at all these functions, AWS has almost everything which is on the slide. So for the authentication and authorization, we have Amazon Cognito. There was a cool session yesterday about this. For authorizing the calls, this is already implemented on our side, so IAM will do this for you. You just have to configure it correctly. For synchronizing and storing user profile data, you can use Cognito as well. There's a sync store part as well integrated. If you want to have shared user data, you could directly use Amazon DynamoDB. Then for asynchronous communication, you have Amazon SQS. And then for text search and location search, you could use Amazon Cloud Search. Then, of course, for all the data that is stored and also the user-generated data, you could use Amazon S3. Then, of course, mobile analytics, we have a service for this. So just upload the mobile analytics. And, of course, Kinesis for real-time data processing, not only from some small devices, but also from mobile phones as well. Then if you want to analyze what the users are doing, the console part from the mobile analytics service will tell you this. And if you want to have complex analytics, you would run this in Redshift and perhaps pump in the data from DynamoDB and so on. And then if you want to integrate all the push providers, so Amazon SNS is perfect for this because it integrates to all the push providers and you can instantly reach all the devices that are registered there. So this one looks very complicated, but actually it's not. We will see a little bit later on. Let's look on the architecture itself. So a basic architecture on AWS would look like, hey, I need mobile analytics and, well, I need to authorize the call somehow. So even if it's not an authenticated user, I need to authorize the call. So I would have Amazon Cognito integrated. And then if I would use all the other services, I have Amazon DynamoDB, Cloud Search, and S3. And perhaps I have also a custom backend. So I have an elastic load balancer. I have Amazon EC2 for that. But for most of the tasks, you could replace the ELB with Amazon SQS and just read out all the messages in SQS in your custom backend. In this way, your custom backend is decoupled from your mobile phone, and the mobile phone just sends the messages to SQS. And SQS scales infinitely, more or less, and your custom backend can scale lazily. And then if you want to run custom analytics, you will have Redshift and your BI software on EC2. And perhaps you select some users in your user database that haven't opened your app for months or so, and you could push a notification back to the device with Amazon SQS. So okay, there are a lot of services, and it looks complicated, and it is not. Let's look on the client side, how this is integrated on the client side. In this sample, we have Amazon Cognito, we have the client itself, and Amazon SQS. So we want to authorize the user. So we would perhaps open a Facebook login screen. So this is the call from the Facebook SDK on Android to open the login screen. And after that, you will get a Facebook token. You would then create a Cognito credentials provider from our mobile SDK. And you would then add the Facebook token to this credentials provider. And underneath, Cognito will create temporary access credentials will provide this to your device. And then you can directly access all the shared services. So in this sample, Amazon SQS. And then you have 2 lines of code to just send the message. And underneath, the calls are authorized and authenticated by Cognito. And well, keep in mind, you can do this with all the services. So you can upload something to S3, you can directly access DynamoDB, and so on. So all the shared services can be accessed in this application. So let's look how customers are using this. So I hand over to Vinny from EasyTaxi.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Vinny from EasyTaxi. I'm one of the founders and also the CTO from EasyTaxi. What is EasyTaxi? EasyTaxi is an app that finds our customer the closest taxi driver available for him in a fast and easy way. We're one of the largest taxi in the world. We started in Rio. We're present today in 33 countries, 4 continents, a lot of cities. One thing, our app is the same app for all of the countries. You don't download another one, and it's all developed in Brazil, in São Paulo. Our IT headquarters is in São Paulo. We are a part of Rocket Internet Group. For you who don't know, Rocket is one of our major investors. We have millions of passengers. We have 15 million downloads, and we have thousands of drivers. We have 350,000 drivers on our system. We went from 0 to millions of rides a month in over 30 countries in 18 months after we closed with deal with Rocket. And there's this sentence there that I like to mention. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So what was the plan? Grow as fast as we could and as much as we could. And we had a marketing. Most of you must know how marketing have unlimited creativity. They always come with all these great deals, and I'm going to mention some of them. When we were developing the in-app payment, we didn't even have the in-app payment. About 2 weeks before we had it, they said, oh, we closed a great deal. We closed a deal with a bank, Santander. So every customer that pay with the Santander card, they have 50% off from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. We have the in-app payment was even finished. I said, okay, 15 days. Okay, we're going to release the in-app payment. Then 1 month later, we do. No, it has to be on the same time. It's going to be on the national news, on the prime time, and it has to be delivered in 15 days. Another one was the Visa World Cup. It was the same thing. They mentioned us that they were having something with Visa, but they didn't know if it was going to be a draw, if it was going to be, you set the results, and if you get the results right, you get the ticket. And then at the end, also like a couple of weeks before, they told us, oh, it's going to be a draw, and everyone that pays with a Visa has to be on that draw. And we did that also. And another one was the Johnny Walker. We didn't even have the voucher yet, and they said, oh, we closed the deal, and if you go to Johnny Walker's site, you get a code, and you get 40% off. We didn't even have the coupon code implemented. Again, we had to implement the coupon code and the sale. So the problem we faced, we had thousands of rides and many thousands of reads per second in our database. And unlike most of the portals, it's not cacheable because it's the taxi position. The taxi hits us every 10 seconds saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I cannot cache this. So challenge that we faced. Our app, it's really mission critical. It's one of the most mission critical apps ever. When a customer wants a taxi, when he uses our app, he needs a taxi at that very moment. He's not going to wait. He cannot hold. If our app is unavailable, or if it's, we don't find a taxi for him, even if it's available, he would have to get a taxi some other way. You have to go to the street, and you have to call some company. He needs to get the taxi on that time. Like when you are going to a portal, if you see value added, if you have a discount, if you know the service is good, you can wait. If they're not available at that time, you come back later. For taxi, that's not possible. One other thing that on top of that availability, we have the connection, the mobile connections. They are horrible in some places. They are really bad. Brazil, it's very bad. We have shadow areas that we don't have. We have a huge latency added. Some places we don't have even 3G, we have 2G. If we have 2G, and that's something else that it's bad for us. And we have an exponential request growth. We went from 0 to over 300,000 requests in one of our APIs. So that's the graph from, this was one day, 25 of September, we had 351 average, almost 400,000 requests. And we have the response time in less than 10 milliseconds. Like I said, I'm kind of I really check the speed because we already have the latency. We already have the mobile problem. So if our APIs go up 3-4 minutes, I already call someone and see what's happening, if it was deployed, or I get in contact with our enterprise support from AWS, what's going on. So how do we currently use AWS? We have EC2s distributed in different regions and different availability zones, so we can provide the availability we need. Of course, we use Route 53 for, it's all in different VPCs, the EC2s. We use auto-scaling, so when we need more APIs, we bring more APIs up. We use Amazon Elastic Cache to do full text search, mostly regex search on huge data sets when we need to search for a customer from part of his name, so we do use Elasticsearch for that. We use Elastic Cache. Like I said, most of our data is not cacheable, but what it is, like customer sessions, driver sessions, when they're logged in, we use Elastic Cache with Regis to help taking some of the load off our database. We use Elastic Load Balancing for two reasons. One is to load the balance between the APIs and also to take care of the HTTPS for us. We use CloudFormation. So, like I said, when one area is growing too much, we can release it on a different region or on a different API. So we have the CloudFormation, so we can deploy an environment with just a click. We have a script there, and as fast as we need, we have a new environment. We use S3 to store driver documents, driver picture, and everything that is available on the internet. We do use CloudFront in front of it to cache that. We use mainly RDS, MySQL, and MongoDB as our data storage. And we're using now the SQS for queued services. All the services, aws, EasyTaxi, to focus on delivering innovation to our customers. So we can focus really on new features, innovation, more stuff. While AWS can do the heavy lifting. It's really easy to implement all the services. What services do we plan to use? So we're constantly reinventing our systems. We're constantly thinking on how to scale better, how to provide a better service, how to handle the the shadow areas, the latency connection. So together with AWS team, we have meetings with them a lot, and we are always looking at new services, new things that can help us do that. So one of them we are looking at is Amazon Cognito to store and synchronize customer profile and some other information. One of the uses we're thinking of for Cognito is to store there across multiple devices, like store the rides history, so we don't have to go to our APIs all the time to check their history and stuff like that. This slide is a little out of date, so I'm going to mention today the Amazon SNS to manage push devices. We're looking at that, but it's already live. Last week, we were going to have our provider for push notification was going to go under maintenance, and they're going to be out for 4 hours. So we just decided, let's do it. And from one day to the other, we just migrated. We implemented it in staging. We did all the POC tests and the POC testing, and then it's already live in our environment. And the Kinesis, we're thinking of replacing SQS for Kinesis majorly for customer updates, where they're going to be updated in Kinesis, and then we can replicate to other regions. With AWS service, we can implement all the service in just a few clicks. Like I just mentioned like we implemented the push notifications in 1 day, and it's already live 2-3 days after. So it's really easy to implement the services. So how AWS helps? AWS let us isolate applications and scale them individually with different availability goals. One example, the rides active, they have to be available fast. I have to be able to check the status, everything really fast. For the rides history, I can add different servers, and it can be a little more, it doesn't have to be as fast as the rest. It can be I don't have to worry too much about that. One key feature that I always mention is the enterprise support. For me, is one of the key services from AWS. They helped us a lot. It's really great to have them on our side when we're in the good and on the bad times. And even when we're thinking of a new architecture or a new service to use, it's really great to be able to talk to a specialist, someone that made the service, someone that will help us decide the best service that will meet our challenges. And another thing that I already mentioned is AWS is providing us multiple regions, and availability zone is key to our success. Like I said, it's really mission critical, and it would be really hard to do without the availability zones. And it's something that makes us sleep a little better at night, knowing that we have the availability zones in the different regions. And without AWS, it would be nearly impossible to scale in the pace we needed, in the time we needed, and as fast as we needed. Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
What was it?
Am I on? My name is Suresh Rasaratnam. I'm a Connected Services engineer for Creative Labs for HTC. HTC is a mobile manufacturer, if you guys didn't know. We make great phones, so hopefully you guys at least have one. We're based out of Taiwan. One of the components that we do for Creative Labs is we build services that enhance the phone and kind of make sure that users have a migration strategy when they buy a new phone. They want the services to continue. So one of the features that we have, we're showing here is BlinkFeed, which is a news aggregator. It's a home screen news aggregator live on every handset that we ship.
Back to the last
Video, a video service called Zoe, and HTC Backup. HTC Backup is a backup and restore feature that when you migrate between phones, it's available for you guys. All these run on Amazon services. Plus, there are a couple other services that run on Amazon as well. So we started on Amazon in 2010. We started with our data center as well as Amazon at the same time. And just managing our data center it's a lot of work, right? I mean, you think you can run a data center with 1 or 2 engineers. That's not even possible. You have to have front-end engineers, data center engineers, MPLS engineers, hardware engineers. It's just much easier to roll with AWS. So as you can see, today we run 90% of our services on AWS. We still have our data centers. We don't use them as much. In China, we also have our data centers. And now that AWS is in China, we're kind of migrating out of our data centers in China to AWS services. We love AWS. I mean, the uptime can't be guaranteed, can't be beaten. We have downtime with our MPLS circuits. We have downtimes with our data centers. All that infrastructure is taken care of by AWS. So we don't have to essentially worry about the support, the innovation, the global footprint. The data centers in Europe, the data centers in APAC, which are close by to our CEO and our customers, the multiple data centers in the US, essentially give us a global footprint. We don't have to develop all the data centers that we need for that. And scalability. We scale, and I'll go through a slide here that shows you our scalability issues that we encounter. So HTC grows. Since most of our apps are default on every HTC device, shipped on the device at the time of launch, we kind of bypass the storefront, right? We don't have to go through the Google store, at least to start off with. So we're on every device. That means we have a pretty big user base when we start off with. And what that also means is it has to work. It cannot fail because it's sometimes front and center on the first screen. It has to work. And what this shows is a graph that when we launch services, there are bumps and valleys. Usually the bumps happen when we launch a Play Store update or an update, photo update over the air. The app gets upgraded. People use it for a couple of days. They sideline it and come back, and they come back to the use case again. So it does go up and down, and the scalability factor on AWS helps us expand and contract when we need to. We usually start on like M1 larges. That's kind of our default deployment. And if we need more load, we just add a couple more M1 larges. We don't go horizontal. Vertical scaling, we just go horizontal scaling. We should be doing vertical and horizontal, but we kind of make it easy for us and just go one way. We're global, as I said. We're in China, as well as all the data centers where Amazon is, because we want to get as close to the customer as possible. And EasyTaxi talked about latency issues. We have that same problem as well. Customers, especially in mobile, are not going to wait for the content to show up. They want the content to be there instantaneously. So we want to be within 8, 10, 4 or 5 milliseconds of the customer. So we have to be as close as possible to the customers. Every developer for connected services or creative labs gets an Amazon account on the first day. They get 10 boxes that they can launch all services on, kind of enjoy, and start developing apps for us. So that's kind of a cool part to work for HTC. All right, some of the things that we do to make sure that we scale and we do things correctly is we put all our data in every data center. I mean, that sounds a little ridiculous, but when we have all these handsets and we need to make sure uptime is 100%, we can't have any failures. We make sure all our data is in all our data centers. And that way, if there is a problem, not even an AZ and a region, we can move from AZ to AZ or AZ to from region to region, and all our customers will have the same experience. We also do a couple of mobile-friendly APIs. One is we make sure that we make services, the host names and the host services are very specific to functionality. So a front screen we may call highlight screen. It might be highlights.htc.com. Search might be search.htc.com. And we kind of prioritize highlights first because that's what the customer sees. So the first screen, any APIs that connect to the first screen, any graphics that come on the first screen are given 100% API spread across the world. Secondary and tertiary APIs, second or third screen functionality are given less appropriate APIs. So you don't have to kind of worry about the second and third ones. Focus on the first one. Because if you lose the customer on the first screen, you've kind of lost them. If it's slow, it has to be fast. So focus on the first screen. We also do, that's kind of what I'm mentioning on screen-specific APIs. Focus on the first screen. The first screen has to pop up fast. Login authentication must happen fast. Any background sync must happen before the customer wakes up or interacts with the handset. So that's something we kind of focus on is screen-specific APIs. The second part we do is, when I show here 8x, we're on not only on all data centers or all regions, we're in multiple regions in multiple deployments. So for staging is an exact copy of production. Test is an exact copy of staging and production. For test, we do scalability, performance, longevity, functional testing. So you can see copies of these are just exact copies. So if I do have a problem if I have to scale, I can actually move all my production users to staging, and they'll still function. So use staging as an exact copy of production. It has to be. Never give that up. One of the other things that we have been using is called device provisioning. That's a thing that in mobility it's really hard to figure out, right? You have dev handsets and test handsets and production handsets, and you want to move them between environments. So we use something called device provisioning for us, where we tell the handset to call back into us and tell us what's our status. Hey, handset A, you go to test. Hey, handset B, you go to staging today. We don't have to push an update to the handset. We don't have to configure handsets. If there's a demo, all handsets for that demo goes to the demo servers, are highly available and ready. But one of the problems with device provisioning is the handset has to call in constantly and say, what's my status, what's my status, what should I do? Which is great for us because we can then provision them within about 5 minutes. We can say, hey, all Asia users go to Europe, all European users go to China, and all test users go to production. We can make that functionality really easy. But with push notifications, we'll talk about a little bit later, that comes in really handy. You can push these messages out, tell the handset to move between environments without the user noticing there's an issue. We use device provisioning a little bit also for timeouts. When should the handset come back in? If you're having problems, we're having performance problems for some reason, which we usually don't, we can back the handset out, come back every 7 minutes, come back every 10 minutes in an algorithm. The other part I want to talk about is global DNS, which is really important, right? On this slide, what we're showing is, on the left-hand side for you guys, if you don't use Route 53 or any cast, you can see you're already losing some factor of milliseconds in this call, right? This is just lookup. Has nothing to do with your APIs, nothing to do with your images. This is just lookup. And if lookup is slow, everything else is going to be slow at some point. So make sure the things that are already given to you, they're kind of handed on a plate, they work. At the end of the day, by just looking global DNS and Route 53, we save about 80% of our time right here, right? It's 1.98 milliseconds compared to 2.8 milliseconds. We're not doing anything except using Route 53 for that. And this also helps when you have users in Asia, they go to the Asia Pac data center, which is Tokyo. If they're in South Asia, they'll go to Singapore. If they're in the US, we can move them between East Coast and West Coast. And if they're in Europe, they go to the European data center. So this is the best given case. And obviously, but there are workarounds to this. When we have to put a data center in maintenance, we'll send the users to the other regions, which might add a little bit of latency. But usually, this is the best case and works great. Another thing that we really look at is CloudTrail. So CloudTrail for logging all the transactions, all issues around performance, 404s. As I said, all the images that come into our service that request images from our handset are coming through an image URL. So when I go to that image domain, I can see only image URLs. I can see the performance. I can see the 404s and the 503s, and I can go fix those really fast. So breaking down your URLs or URIs to a very nice set of human-readable names kind of helps you kind of debug some of that stuff. We use Sumo Logic to aggregate all our logs and look at our issues. It's something we recommend, but Sumo Logic integrates with CloudTrail, which I recommend you guys turn CloudTrail on for everything that's possible. We also use CloudTrail to tag our instances and audit our instances. One of the issues that we have is, since we give dev accounts to every developer, they'll start up instances, and they'll keep instances running, and they won't tag them. So we have no way to figure out who really launched them. We do, but we can go tell them, hey, you should tag your instance as a dev box or a staging box or a project box. Please make sure these tags are appropriately managed. And CloudTrail kind of audits that for us. At the end of the night, I get this report. I say, hey, you haven't tagged your instances. Go tag your instances. Always shut them down. CloudTrail is also great for security, right? Making sure if you know who logged into which instances, where did they come from, why are people logging into our instances from China? They shouldn't be. They should be logging into the China instances from China and not to the US instances. So that's running 24/7, making sure we have appropriate logging in the right places. Interdepartmental billing. Because we are HTC and we have users all over the world and everybody gets an AWS account, I want to make sure that every user is billed appropriately. So using CloudTrail and tagging, I said that those guys from the graphics team, and they'll have to pay for those instances at that point. So that's one of the things that we look at. Logs are a huge part of our ecosystem. Just make sure you don't log as much from the handset because of mobile traffic, but on the server side, you can log as much as you want. The last part is, what are we going to do with? As I said, we do a lot of pulling right now. Right? We pull the servers every 5 or 7 minutes when the handset is free, when the handset is powered on or is jacked in. We're polling for new news. And one of the things we want to do is move towards push. We can push breaking news, push location-based services instead of always polling the services. When we have to poll the services, you have to scale, you have to be ready, you have to worry about failures. So with push, you can do kind of you have more control over the situation, kind of control where you're sending your data, and kind of get it even also smaller servers, right? We can go with M1 smalls instead of M1 larges. Cognito for BlinkFeed. BlinkFeed is a news aggregator, as I said, and it's on the home screen of a handset, right? Every user who has an HTC handset, if you right swipe, you'll get the news on the device. One of the problems we do for that is we don't want a registration. I mean, we kind of decided not to do a registration because that takes away from the user experience. We want the user to see the news right there. But with Cognito, what it enables us to do is to go from one device to many devices. We can get single sign-on, migration between 2 devices, all your categories, all your subscriptions that are on one device automatically migrate to the second device. The other part that it helps is with the trial and registered users. You can always start up a user as being in trial mode and then move over to migrated to registered users. So those are a couple of things that we use Amazon for. We have kind of all the problems that everybody else has. Mobility just adds a different problem. It has a high latency, high kind of, you have to worry about battery performance issues. So push helps with battery. Push helps with kind of getting the content to the user as fast as we can without having the user pull for us. That's about it. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Suresh. Okay, just to wrap it up, okay? So what should you do now? You should innovate faster, and you probably should know how to do this. Use shared services as much as possible, especially for the front-end parts of your application. And you have seen, go global to reduce the latency. And try out yourself. So we have a mobile workshop tomorrow. So if you want, join there and see how this works really on the client and on the server side. So with that, thank you, and have a good night.
He didn't change the slides.